Welcome to episode 15. This is the post game show for Ohio State versus that team up north, Michigan. Actually, congratulations to Michigan for defeating the Ohio State Buckeyes. It's not really exciting for Buckeye Nation right now. I believe that everyone is still in pretty much like shock, a little bit of most definitely disappointment. A lot of people are automatically saying that they want Ryan Day to be replaced. That's been a suggestion, and then also, the fact that KyleMccord is a young quarterback. A lot of people were depending on his on him stepping up. You know what I'm saying? Stepping up for this game because it's such an important game, and I don't. Many people don't think that he understood how how high of a level like this game was on. You know what I'm saying? This is not just a regular season game. It is, but it's not. And so we're gonna have Paris come on here, of course, he's gonna join us, but it's really a sad day for Buckeye Nation. I mean, 3 years in a row where we don't, where Ryan Day has lost to that team up north. Now, interesting enough, many people had a lot of faith and hope in the Buckeyes when it came to this game. But knowing that it's a younger team, a younger quarterback, these were the things that were mainly concerning for all people. So let's get Paris on here. Let's see. Okay, Paris is coming. So it's extremely devastating to lose to Michigan 24-30. I mean, at least in the last 2 years, the score was lower. It wasn't a high score win. You got to give it up for the defense for the Buckeyes to some extent. However, in that second half, that's when we really expected the Buckeyes to really make a comeback and fight. I just didn't feel that energy when it came down to the nitty gritty. It's pretty insane. And so hopefully, I mean, right now it's just pure disappointment. I know that many people, I mean, many of the players are, being pretty hard on themselves, which is pretty typical after such a big game. But it's important for them to understand that, you know, this is the game that you prepare for all season. Okay, this is the game of the season. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm back. So it's really insane that, it's not really insane that they won because we knew that, coming into this, that Harbaugh not being there, that they would have a lot of momentum and motivation to win this game. But, it was really about how much they wanted it, how hungry they were for it, and they were hungry. And Ohio State did not give me that they were hungry at all. I mean, with Kyle being a young quarterback, I expected to see a lot more from Marvin Harrison Jr. Okay, Kyle McCord. I don't think he wasn't communicating right today for some reason. I mean, Harrison was open quite a bit, and Kyle was not throwing it to him. I know that he was making those short picks and things and like that. That worked out for him for those moments, but not for the entire game. So it's really like just okay. There's Paris. Okay, so
First and foremost, bear with me. I'm coming back from watching the game. It's been
uh,
traffic, but we have a lot to dive into today.
I know, I know. The thing is this, like, I knew that right away if we lost, people were going to automatically want Ryan Day gone. It's 3 years in a row.
I know. You know, honestly, when I really do a dive look into this game, Brianna, I'm just gonna call it what it is.
Hmm.
Right now, Ohio State is seriously in the rebuilding mode. It's important to note that ever since Urban Meyer left and Ryan Day took helm, it was just, you know, one, he took the position,
Hmm.
arguably as one of the best candidates, but he was really diving into possibly a seat in which he wasn't necessarily ready to reign, and that's okay. But I think now you're kind of seeing the growing pains of his young team that he's trying to build. When he
Hmm.
took on being Ohio State coach after Urban Meyer, those weren't his players. Those were Urban players that Urban recruited.
Hmm. Hmm.
And to be fair with you, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like those players might have just graduated maybe last year, a year and a half ago.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
respectfully, this whole coaching staff, this whole team, not only is it new, but it is a result of just the simple growing pains. They don't have a good quarterback. That's not shocking. The defense, still is struggling. There's just a lot of holes in this team, and it really isn't, in my opinion, a CFP championship playing team. It isn't. I
Yeah.
personally don't think Michigan is either, but I do feel that Michigan does have a lot of. They don't have as many holes as Ohio State does, because when you do look at it, yes, they lost the game today, but you know, kylemccord, he seriously has been a struggle all season against Penn State, against Minnesota. So
Yeah.
it's not shocking that he's gonna, struggle against this mature defensive team that Michigan has.
Hmm.
The field goal kick, we missed the the special teams coach.
I mean, how
I
could we
mean,
miss that? How could we miss that?
People's been talking about hiring a new special teams coach literally since 2021.
Yeah.
At this point, there's no more excuses. The whole Georgia thing was upsetting. This field goal kick, it was crazy. It was just, and there were just a lot of things that happened in the game, honestly, Brianna, to where I don't want to say it was a Ryan Day issue, because there was a lot of things that happened on the field that Ryan Day had no control of, like that pick six, like the field goal kick. But I will say again, Ryan Day, I personally believe that he does need to give the play calling to Brian Hartline. And I feel that, until he really plays to win, the Buckeyes aren't going to win. How many times are you not going to go for, first down conversion on a 4-and-1?
Exactly. I just feel like coming into the game, Ryan Day, the energy was not there. I did not see that hungriness. I didn't see the hunger in them. I didn't feel that, they really wanted to come out with a big win. I just didn't feel that same energy that we normally have when it comes to this game. We are back in their territory.
Right.
And I mean, to me, Buckeye Nation, it wasn't really present in the in
That
the
was
in the
that was another thing that bothered me, was that where were the Buckeyes? Where were
I
the
don't
fans?
I don't
That
know.
looks like a Michigan scrimmage on the field from a distance.
Well, you
It
know
did.
what? I really think that at one point Ohio State was playing as if they were scared. I understand the run game that Michigan has. I understand that. We understand the defense, but we're both 11 and 0. So how are you really going to respond to this? I just didn't see the coverage wasn't there for Ohio State defensively. They really struggled in this game. And this is always that game that makes or breaks the defense um, for the season. So it's like they were able to stop the run game to a certain extent, but it just wasn't enough. It
It
wasn't.
wasn't.
It wasn't. They didn't fight enough for me. I
They
mean,
didn't. They didn't. And honestly, I think I do believe it starts with the leadership, on and off the field. with that being said, I don't really feel that Kyle really is confident enough. It, and I don't know him. I don't know how he plays. I don't know how he is with his team. But I will say it does
Mm.
look like he doesn't have that leadership that you typically see from elite playing quarterbacks.
He struggled with the decision making in a lot of parts of the game. I was telling you he was with the short picks. I mean, I understand when he sees that in sight, he's quick to do that. But many times he missed the target. He missed Marvin Harrison Jr. quite a bit, more than I expected or anticipated. I wanted to see Marvin Harrison Jr. run up and down that field like crazy, and we didn't get that. And that has to do with the communication and the chemistry between Kyle McCord and his wide receivers. I mean, you're right. That certain level of leadership that Ohio State grooms the quarterbacks to be is not necessarily all the way there or all the way developed in Kyle McCord. I think that um, I don't think he understood the pressure of this game. I don't think that he understood the magnitude um, of the game based on his performance. Mentally, I think it was a lot for him. I think that I don't think that he could handle the pressure. I think that he did. They had some explosive plays and things of that nature, but I just didn't see the fight and the hunger in them that I wanted. I did see that in Michigan's quarterback JJ McCarthy. I can't deny that his precision and his accuracy with the throwing was definitely spot on for this game. Um, I definitely wouldn't put him and Kyle McCord in the same
No,
on the same level of experience. Obviously, JJ McCarthy is a little bit more seasoned when it comes to
right,
this. So,
right.
that's why I think that's also why we didn't see a lot of Buckeye Nation there because it was the lack of faith in Kyle McCord.
And it is important to note that he is a first year starting quarterback,
Yeah.
and that's huge because let's face it, he's not. When Michigan next year starts with their new, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just rolling,
Mm-hmm.
against teams.
Yeah.
Especially with them losing experienced
Mm-hmm.
players. So next year it is going to be a little bit more interesting. But I do feel that some changes are going to be made on Ohio State's team. Um, I think I'm not too sure if it's Kyle McCord has the most experience right now within the quarterbacks, and we all know it's very hard starting out your first year. So, with him having the most experience, you almost want him to start next year because, Devin Brown doesn't have experience. Lincoln, the freshman, he doesn't have experience. People are talking about Aaron Nolan, but, we all seen what happened with Ark Manning when he stepped out to the field his first time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these young quarterbacks need development. And currently, Kyle McCord is the only one who really has that development. And I think it's going to be crucial going into next year because this year was a testament that if Ohio State wants to be competitive, they're going to need um, an experienced, developed quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to run into the same problem with any of their young quarterbacks next year. But that means that Kyle McCord, will most likely have to start. But I do feel that Ryanday is not going to make it easy if he does. There will definitely be a quarterback competition. And I wouldn't be surprised if Devin Brown takes the lead next year.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say is that, you're going to lose Marvin Harrison. You're going to lose um, Emeka.
Mm-hmm.
So there are going to be some key players that Ohio State is losing this year that, was just going to, I think it's going to really even playing field, the level for the Big Ten.
Yeah. And I just feel like if we took a poll right now that said, should Ohio State keep Ryan Day or get rid of him? I think that poll is going to lean towards getting rid of him. I mean, I don't know what's going on when it comes to, like I saw a tweet. Somebody said, please bring Urban back. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, what there is such a huge difference. There is some sort of difference there, for Ryan to lose 3 years in a row, it speaks volumes. It it holds so much weight as a coach that it's like that's something that they can't really allow. I mean, how many more chances are they going to give him? Um, it's crazy. I think that uh, we thought Ryan Day would be able to handle it this year when we saw him get a little bit like out of his character, and we saw him, be more emotional as a coach. He's always so cool, calm, and collected, and so conservative. But like they need to see that. They needed to see that fight in him tonight, and they didn't see it. I think he is still that guy that sets the tone. It's not Brian Hartline.
No,
I think Brian Hartline could set the tone, but I don't think that that's not who they looked to for that.
no.
Um, it's crazy because Jim Jim Harbaugh, but he was not there whatsoever. So we already said that him not being there, that would motivate them even more, add more fuel to the fire, and that's exactly what happened. The play that was under review with Denzel Burke and I believe Roman Wilson. I mean, it was pretty insane to they couldn't determine if that Michigan player had control of the ball. And
Yeah,
I think that call stood. Um, the thing is, this game has nothing to do with the cheating investigation whatsoever. I'm going to be honest; it really doesn't. Um, this was really about the physicality of the game, and Michigan was just more physical. I mean, there were spurts of Ohio State really stepping up defensively, but I just don't think the guys are that
I
developed
think
yet.
they were
I mean,
no,
they just
they
seemed a
were
little bit more
outplayed
smaller too.
and
Like,
they were outplayed, out called. Because I think the difference though, and this is what people have to understand: the difference between Ryan Day as a head coach is that he's the actual play caller. Not every head coach is a play caller. Jim Harbaugh is not a play caller.
right.
His defensive coordinators are, and his offensive coordinators are. So whether Jim's there or not, he's still not playing the call.
Mhm.
Whether Ryan Day is there, that would be a big issue because
Mhm.
he's the one who plays the call.
Right.
So
Right.
hypothetically speaking, if Ryan Day was the coach that was being suspended from the Big Ten, then we would see a whole new offense because Ryan Day would be promoted to play caller.
Right.
Which I mean, even last season, people were begging Ryan Day to make Brian Hartline the play caller. He said he
I,
would give him some lead, but Ryan Day felt that he still should be the play caller. But look where it's leading the team. And
it's,
now, people are fearing that Brian Hartline is going to leave for a head coaching position to where he can possibly be somewhere to play calls. But, you know,
I, yeah.
Hartline's responsible for recruiting Harrison and Jackson Smith and Emeka. So I feel like now is the time to where he possibly should really share a lot more responsibility when it comes to the Ohio State offense.
I feel like he could also
Um,
say like what things that need to, that things Ryan Day needs to work on. I just, they would never say such things, but
they need a better offensive lineman and they need better defense. They need to recruit better on defensively as well. Seriously.
it's
Um,
just crazy to see the change from when Urban was there to now to losing 3 times in a row. I mean, you have a lot of the former players chiming in on this game. You know what I'm saying? And they know what's missing. They played it, they've been through it, and they've played in that cold ass weather up there in Michigan. Um, and that wasn't even a factor in this game. The coverage was not there. Michigan was wide open throughout the entire game. Open, and they shouldn't have been as open when it comes to their wide receivers. But you know what? Somebody like Blake Corum, he was a game player. I mean, he was a game maker. Like it was crazy with the coverage on him, but it was like we were struggling tremendously to actually bring them down in any shape, way, or form.
there
And
was another questionable call though in the fourth quarter. Minutes down when the score was 27-24 on a four, I think no, on a 3-and-18,
Mm-hmm.
third down, 3rd and 18, where one of the players, what's his, I think his name might have been Johnson. He was a receiver. They said that there should have been an offensive foul
Mm-hmm.
called during that play, but it wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
and Michigan got the first down. If it had not, and that actually was a drive in which Michigan scored.
Mm-hmm.
Um, had it not, it would have been 4-and-18, and most likely Michigan would have punted the ball. So that was, and then Ohio State would have had more time with the ball. So that's another. That was another play that the college football board was really raving about over Twitter and all over the internet about. And
Yeah.
that's another thing though. Some of these referee calls really do. They really do persuade the potential outcomes of a lot of big showdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these games do come to referee calls, which we've seen many, many times again. But this one, I just think it was just a lack of play calling. I think the play calling wasn't aggressive enough. Again, KyleMccord, he just struggled on the field. And he has. It's not like he doesn't have the weapons. He
Mm-hmm.
has talented receivers. He has talented running backs.
Yeah.
With that amount of talent, you shouldn't struggle so much. And then the defense, it was like it was just up to a certain point where, honestly, it didn't even matter what the defense did because they were just they were just they didn't have the upper hand. They didn't.
They didn't, and this is like the most expensive, the one of the highly watched, anticipated games of the regular season, and so for you know, not only is Michigan fighting an investigation, but here they come out with this win versus Ohio State 3 years in a row. So it's definitely like they are overcoming any type of obstacle that's being thrown their way, any type of wrench. Um, it doesn't phase them whatsoever. And you're right. When you mentioned earlier, was that Ohio State team that played Notre Dame, right? Like it just the aggressiveness wasn't there. And I'm not sure why. Because it's not, yeah, we're undefeated, but it's not like you beat Michigan the previous year before. And it's like, this is the game where there should be none of those little mistakes like missing the field goal. If they would have made the field goal earlier in the game, it would have tied the game earlier on.
Yeah.
Ohio State should have came out scoring early in the game to set the momentum for themselves to keep that advantage throughout the whole game. But they weren't able to do that, and that's unfortunate.
And I'm surprised that Ryan Day hasn't. I'm surprised that he doesn't go for more field goals. Honestly, when you're playing tight games like this, it's just about throwing points on the score, getting as many points as you can. Anytime you're in field range, just kick the ball. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
that's just what it's come down to.
Well, they didn't even make that first field goal, and that's like that was one of those little mistakes that shouldn't have been made. That was detrimental in the game. The
Is
fact
that
that
the same punter from last year?
I believe so. I believe so. I think that Ohio State came into this game with with like feeling super comfortable, um, and it's unbelievable because Ryan Day has not delivered for the past 2 years. Past
Three
2 years.
now.
Yeah, well, now three, but there weren't many sacks in this game. Ohio State normally sacks the Michigan quarterback all the time. JJ McCarthy did not have to worry about that in this game. And that's just not the way Ohio State normally plays when they're facing that team up north. I was definitely thinking about Chase Young and Raekwon McMillan, and I was thinking about Joey. I was like, I mean, why? Where is that level of play? Where is that? And I'm talking about just when they were playing at Ohio State, not as them as NFL players, but when they played at Ohio State and when they played against Michigan. It doesn't seem like that same motivation was there today with the the O line with the D line, it just wasn't there. So, I mean, obviously Buckeye Nation is completely devastated. I watched the press conference, Ryan Day and with
I
Ryan
couldn't even
Day.
watch it. I couldn't even watch it.
Like it's you can tell he's super disappointed, super devastated, and he hates that he has to answer these questions right now, but the fact of the matter is everyone is looking at him as somewhat of a semi failure as a head coach at Ohio State. Luckily, I don't think this will affect the recruiting of 2020 class of 2024, but still there has to be this has to bring some type of reservation because 3 years in a row is just way too many. It's way
Yeah.
too many, especially after everything we faced with Tressel, and then Urban was able to kind of just bring us back to life. He changed the program dynamic tremendously, and now Ryan Day is it's like watching it crumble. It's like unfortunately that's gonna be the mood with him right now. That is the vibes that people are getting, and I don't know how he's gonna shake that.
And it's not going to get any easier with UCLA, USC, Washington, and Oregon joining the conference next year. Now, with the divisions no longer existing, that's going to be an interesting, thing because I'm not sure if the whole rivalry game would still be as big, only because the winner pretty much goes on to the conference championship. So, it's like next year you're not going to have these huge stakes. It's just going to be beat Michigan, but
Well,
now we can still, but now it's, hypothetically speaking, Ohio State can still lose to Michigan, but then go to conference championships if they have a better record. So, it is going to be a little interesting with the rivalry next year because there aren't going to be as many stakes, simply because, it's just going to be the best team that has the best record. The top two teams compete in the championships, and, you know, knowing the teams that they have to face next year, you know, they might not come. They might not be in November with the 11-0
I want to
record.
know what Gene Smith is thinking right now because I know Maurice Claret is pissed. He is very vocal right now, and he is the one that is saying that Ryan Day should be fired. Um, Again, I knew this was coming. I knew this was coming because this is a third straight loss, and it just doesn't work that way with this program. Um, Ryan Day, yeah, I mean, he was put in a position trying to fill Urban Meyer's shoes. Those are big shoes to fill. Um, and right now it doesn't seem that he's able to fill them.
No, I
Um,
think he's going to be in the hot seat, but I really do think that he's going to relinquish a lot of his play calling duties. It's been 3 years in a row, Brianna, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Well, because it's almost like doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. That's insanity, is it not?
mhm,
So at this point, if you want change to happen, you have to make a change, and there's
yeah.
gonna have to be some sort of change being made. Now, I will say the defense has improved as a whole. Um, they didn't show up today, but they have improved. I mean, a lot of the defensive players, did come back from injury. Two
Mhm,
of them missed last week against Minnesota, so they
mhm,
did come back. Sometimes that can play, a little. That
yeah.
can have somewhat of an effect, but for the most part, um, I just, it's like the defense may have struggled in this game, but we had the ball we had the ball, and we were in. We made too many good drives for us not to be able to score, and I think that to me just still serves as a bigger issue all season long. We've barely been you know scoring, and it's just you know it's
Well, what's funny is people are on Twitter right now saying that KyleMccord, you are a Cincinnati Bearcat. That's funny because I told you I was like, I'd rather have Luke Fickle right now, just for the certain play. But I mean, nobody wants this kid to even put on an Ohio State helmet again? I mean, they are eating him alive. And
And
I
I
was
hope they're
saying
careful
this
with that though,
earlier.
because he is still a kid.
I
It's
know,
his first year
but
starting.
this is the thing. JT Barrett felt the wrath too, plenty of times. The wrath of Buckeye Nation is just unbearable sometimes. You know that some of these athletes receive death threats. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's insane. And so kylemccord definitely he's feeling the wrath right now. Um, and that's hard as a quarterback. You're supposed to be that's a leadership role, and it just when people like Buckeye Nation, they feel that you're not delivering as a leader. It's really unbearable, and it's hard to bounce back from. He's mentally going to have to make a change when it comes to the way he handles the situation. We may see a response, we may not. But I think Ryan Day also should tread very lightly in what he says right now, because he's also going to get eaten alive. I think that that's just how Buckeye Nation is. I think when you lose 3 years in a row, it's there's really no room for empathy or sympathy when it comes to Kyle McCord and Ryan Day. Now, no other coaches are really being mentioned when it comes to the Ohio State coaching staff. Not sure why, but it just seems like those two common denominators, mainly Ryan Day. But where would he go? You know what I'm saying? Um, where would he go? Who would want him?
I
People
don't
are.
think Ryan Day will leave this year. Honestly,
I
I don't.
don't know, but I mean, if there was an action
Next
to be
year,
taken, okay.
next year, definitely. If he doesn't next year, I think that if Michigan, if Ohio State does really poorly against Michigan and in the season in general next year, I do think Ryan Day would, very well possibly be coaching his last um, Buckeye season. I do.
Yeah, and but you know what? I really wish Travion Henderson would. I was expecting him to do a lot more. Um, I was expecting a lot more yards. And I was expecting him to break through like a mini Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, that's what I was expecting from him in this game. He did do pretty well though. He didn't get injured. I know that he was recovering from an injury not too long ago, but unfortunately, I think when it comes to um, Travion Henderson and Marvin Harrison Jr., I think that people are going to go ahead and blame Kyle for that. There was a few incomplete passes. But at the same time, Buckeye Nation just didn't give him any room to make any mistakes because
No,
this is the third game.
and I will say that there was, if I'm not mistaken, because I didn't watch the ending of the game, but if I'm not, you did, Rihanna, right? There
Yeah.
there was an interception from Harrison in the fourth quarter.
Yes.
Because I did see fans say that it did almost seem as if he gave up. Harrison kind of gave up, and one of the
Yeah.
interceptions that were caught. And I think again at that point it was just a matter of you just with the time that was on the board, you knew you were going to lose, and at
Yeah,
that
that's
point you
what it
just
was.
accepted the
They were looking
reality.
at the clock. The focus was the clock. It was no longer about trying to score a touchdown. They really needed to score a touchdown or interception in the end of the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter. That would have been the game changer. That would have set them up to win the game. That did not happen. I just didn't see Kyle having that drive when it comes to even, I mean, he threw some deep passes. I mean, two at most to Marvin Harrison Jr. But Marvin Harrison Jr. he really wasn't playmaking until the second half of the game, which
Yeah.
is when I thought the Buckeyes would really try to make a comeback. But even in the fourth quarter, it was just like the fight wasn't there.
It's funny though because I've never felt like Ohio State was the second half team, honestly. Like, and I know you've mentioned that to me off camera. I've never,
Yeah,
I to me, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. To me, a second half team definitely by definition to me is Alabama. One thing about one thing about Nick Saban, he plays till the end,
Yeah.
and I feel like Georgia has become somewhat of a second half team,
Hmm.
even against Ohio State last year
Right.
at the college football. Ohio State had a huge lead, and Georgia
Hmm.
came back fair and square,
Hmm.
and they did what needed to be done. If I'm
Right.
not mistaken, think it was like I think Georgia might have had like less than 20 in the second half, and by the end they scored like 45.
I mean, I'm telling you, Paris, the fight wasn't there. Ohio State was not trying to fight to the end. They were worried about everything in the third quarter. The clock was ticking. Next thing you know, in the fourth quarter, there's like 5 minutes left. I mean, it was just going by so quickly, and the fight wasn't there. I mean, I think that they were okay with the team up north winning. I think they were okay with that. I'm going to say that because they weren't fighting. The aggressiveness wasn't there. There was not even a fight or a spectacle in the game. There's normally some type of fight or outbreak or something that happens in the game, but there was nothing. It was dry, and it was just about watching Michigan's run game. I mean, and we saw that, and then Ohio State was just lacking in the coverage, and it was just like, what is happening here? Okay,
You
they're
know,
going to come back in the third and the fourth quarter. No.
it's interesting. I saw a stat and I was quite shocked. Marvin Harrison will graduate if he doesn't come back next year, which I don't think he should. He has no reason to. But he said that Marvin Harrison would have graduated and never beaten Michigan and never playing the Big Ten championship. That's mind blowing to me because when Ohio State never lost to Michigan my
Not when
five
we were
four or five
there.
years at Ohio State, not
Right.
once,
Right.
not once. And I believe actually my last year ryanday was the head coach
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Justin Fields is the quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and CJ Stroud, that's Ryan Day's, he could, that Ryan Day helped develop CJ Stroud. He's a great quarterback in the NFL. I'm not saying that Ryan Day is not a good coach, but I'm saying, like, when it comes to this game, this particular game, something just doesn't click for him. And I can't put my finger on what that possibly could be. I mean, the the fact that it's 3 years in a row, at least this year it wasn't a high scoring game, like, it being like 42 to something last year and the previous year in the 40s for Michigan. I mean, it's just that the execution wasn't there. It wasn't there whatsoever. And, you know, when you have someone like, what is, when you have somebody like, what's his name? Marvin Harrison Jr., right? I mean, there should be no question and doubt to really have faith in him, right? I think Kyle was lacking that confidence in Marvin Harrison Jr., and I think that had to do with his passing game too. I think that Kyle was doubting himself at some point in the game, and he gave up earlier than we can say and what we really know, because he really wasn't throwing the ball as he should to Marvin Harrison Jr., and he was open. He wasn't taking those risks that Ohio State needed to take to score points. They needed to put points on the board, and they weren't doing that earlier in the game.
It's going to be interesting um, knowing who's going to opt to play in the Rose Bowl, or excuse me, who's going to opt to play in the bowl game, who's going to opt out of playing in the bowl game because they're not going to the playoffs. No way. They would need too many upsets, way too many upsets, in order to make the playoffs, and it's about nearly impossible. From Texas to Washington to Georgia, they literally need every favorite in the championships to lose in order to go to the playoffs. From the
Yeah,
Big 12, from the Pac 12, from the SEC, baby, that's not happening.
no,
That's not
it's
happening.
not.
That's
I
like
don't think this team is built for. I don't even know if this team would beat Iowa. Michigan's going to face Iowa as a result of this game. And I don't even think Ohio State would have been ready to face Iowa with Kyle McCord. Unfortunately, we're going to hear all negative things about Kyle McCord. The only positive thing we may hear is those two deep passes that he threw to Marvin Harrison Jr. And I mean, when Michigan sacked him, that was okay. One sack is okay, but the incomplete passes is what makes it like inaccurate. It makes his accuracy rate just drop. And the precision was not there. I think he struggled with decision making as the game came to a close. I mean, you got to think the atmosphere was just strictly Michigan fans. It really seemed that way. Not enough red in the crowd to even be cheering these guys on. Such a young team, they need that support from the fans in the stadium. They really do, and they just didn't have that there. Um, I mean, the fact that Michigan scored a touchdown right after their teammate got carted off the field, Zach center, a key player for Michigan's O line, and he was carted off the field, and they scored right afterwards. All that for him, and I mean that's that fight and hunger that Ohio State with Michigan. I think honestly, part of them was slightly scared coming into this game because they knew what people were saying probability wise about Michigan's run game. Defense knew that they were struggling a little bit. Ohio State's defense knew that they were struggling a little bit in the season. So I think Michigan just had more confidence in this game, unfortunately, and that really reflected throughout the entire game, even early on,
I agree,
right?
100%. There's almost nothing else that needs to be said. Just you can only hope that things turn around. But with the four schools joining the Big Ten next year,
Hmm.
it's gonna be pretty wild.
Well, the thing is this, like, we can no longer talk about the cheating. It's no longer about that, right? We clearly just saw the physicality of the game. It's really just about how they played. There wasn't enough grit in this game. This looked like it, like you said, it was like a scrimmage. There wasn't enough grit in this game. Um, it's it's really sad for it's a sad day for Buckeye Nation. At the same time, some Ohio State fans were kind of like on the fence anyway. Um, I think that's why. Yeah, I think that's
I
why a
mean,
lot of
I keep it a buck.
I know.
I'm gonna keep it a buck.
Yeah, and I mean, you want to have faith in such a
Right.
prestigious football program, but when it comes down to just this one game, this is the game that they fight, that they work hard for all year. I mean, we cross out all the M's on campus for this game. I mean, that's a lot of M's. We do a lot of things to hype up this game, and so to not execute and to not win is just like really disappointing. 24 to 30. The thing is this. Ohio State, they really needed to have, they should have really wanted to win. Um, I think Michigan kind of got in their heads a bit with the investigation. I think that kind of got to them, made them really comfortable going in, thinking that, um, this may be an easy win. We may not have to, put up such a fight. But again, I think it's also just a young team, so they have a lot that they need to work on because this game was really the game that they shouldn't have lose out of any game of the season.
I mean, they're a young team, but they're losing a lot of. Just about almost every key player is gone, both defensively and offensively. They're gonna be gone.
Yeah, and the thing is
And
like,
I don't think they're. I don't think it's worth coming back
mhm.
respectfully next season. I just
Well, one thing that's really good out of this is that, Michigan had a black head coach, Sharon Moore. And for Sharon Moore, I mean, congratulations to him because um, He's won two critical games that put him on the map as a head coach. This definitely confirmed that he could fill those shoes. And that he can take on such a win like this versus somebody like Ryan Day. I remember I heard the commentator of the game talking about Ryan Day, one of the best coaches in the nation. And no, I don't think that. I don't think he's one of the best coaches in the nation because he can't win this game.
Yeah, he has a clean record, but no. I,
He's not.
coaching wise, I'm not sure. He's one of the greats, but I wouldn't say he's the best. I
He's
think
not.
I think honestly, I think to me the only coach that's really on a whole different level, and I don't think anyone's gonna argue this, is Nick Saban. Nick Saban knows how to get his players. I'm gonna tell you something.
Yeah.
They lost to LSU in the first game and are playing in the SEC championship with a chance at beating Georgia and making it into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone counted them out.
Yeah.
Now look where he led the team.
That's true.
And if he wins the title, baby, he's going to the playoffs.
Definitely.
He's just about going to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State would have beat Michigan if Urban was coaching. They are just those types of coaches. They're just that caliber. And Ryan Day has just proven that he's not. He's not in the same boat. And he's not able to fill Urban Meyer's shoes when it comes to winning against Michigan. So now we're going to see Michigan face Iowa. That's going to be a good game as well. Maybe not the same momentum that this game had, as far as like hyping it up and everything like that. It doesn't have that same weight, but this is definitely, I mean, Ohio State's obviously going to drop off the charts, and it's just unfortunate. We're gonna hear a lot of speculation about Ryan Day possibly going to Texas. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I
Um,
agree.
yeah. Um, I think that Ohio State is loyal to Ryan Day, just like Michigan is loyal to Jim Harbaugh. I think that, you know, Harbaugh is still going to be at Michigan. I think they're going to welcome him back with open arms. I think we're going to see him next year. I don't think he's going anywhere, but I think things may be up in the air as far as coaching decisions on Ohio State side. May see some things with change with Ryan Day, may not, but we're definitely going to see a shift in just I would say, like,
The program,
yeah,
you're going to see a shift. Whether it comes from
yeah,
the players, the coaches, you're going to see a shift within the program. So stay tuned.
yeah. I mean, the thing is this, you know, the fact that Harbaugh wasn't even coaching this game and he still beat Ohio State, it just speaks volumes. And it's going to be hard to move on from this. Obviously, he has to, but I just don't know in what way where it's not going to be hurtful. And he's going to hear some hurtful remarks, man. It's going to be like brutal out there for him from now on, actually. Since this is the third time that we lost, he's really going to feel it. And there's the Buckeyenation has no empathy or sympathy when things happen, when things continue to happen like this within the program. So, yeah, I can say that for Ohio State, they, have to redeem themselves by obviously beating Michigan next year, but it's really just going to come down to the regular season again and making it this far at least, with such a young quarterback like Kylemccord. So we can definitely just hope for the best when it comes to that. Maybe they will replace him, maybe they won't. It's not like they had a third string quarterback great like Cardell Jones or anything like that. So I didn't even see like a lot of blocking in this game either. It's just that fight just wasn't there. So that, I think, that had a lot to do with the loss. But now we can just look forward to the next game and see where things go from there. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the coaching staff at Ohio State, because there has to be changes made from this point on. That is it for today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in to the post game show for Ohio State versus that team up north. Michigan did win with the final score of 30-24, which knocks Ohio State down on the chart. So we'll see what happens by tomorrow, where things go from there. And we will catch you guys on the next episode. Make sure you subscribe and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, on LinkedIn, on TikTok. We're everywhere. And make sure you follow Paris too. That way you get the notification of when the next episode is airing. So that is it. Thank you guys for tuning in and have a good evening.
Such a hard evening.
I know, right? Gotta bite the bullet, but we'll end it on a good note. So
Go Bucks.
go Bucks. All right. Bye.